born actually in Grizzletown, May the 8th, 1947. Grizzletown got its name from my grandfather, George W. Grizzle. He was born in 1890 in Cherokee County, and his family moved to South Bartow County, on area around Groover Landing Road, just north of Ackworth. And the reason it was called Grizzletown is Granddad had built about 30 houses in that area and ran 2 stores there. And what makes Grizzletown so unique, obviously it's cool that he had built some 30 houses there, but the thing is, he was a blind man. At the age of 5, was cutting an onion sack open with a pocket knife. The knife came off the string and it went into one of his eyes. It blinded that eye immediately, and they didn't have the medical attention that you'd get today. And so he lost sight in the other eye within 6 months. And so he was totally blind from age 5. His dad was a carpenter. And so rather than feeling sorry for him, he kept giving him chores to do, building little outhouses and things like that, and sheds and all around the place. And he got to where he could do real good with a hammer and saw. He was a remarkable man. Their children's name was Debbie T. Grizzle, William Taylor Grizzle, Lula Murtis Grizzle, Clyde Washington Grizzle, and George Talmadge Grizzle. My dad was George Talmadge. He was the youngest. Dad was born in 28, like I said, in Grizzletown also, and he married my mother. My mother was Evelyn Davis. She lived over in East Cobb on Davis Road over there. Dad worked at Hole Proof for several years right after they first got married, and then he left there and went to work at Lockheed. Worked there for about 10 years. About 1956, he opened up the Frosty Treat ice cream parlor and a hamburger joint just north of Ackworth, right at the Bartow County line. And that was a hangout for everybody. Everybody talks about the Frosty Treat back then. First of all, we had just a multitude of kids down there of our age. So we had enough people there. We played softball, we played baseball, we played football, we played basketball. And Larry and Jerry had motor scooters. And we'd run those motor scooters up and down Macphail Drive. Actually, we'd run them down and we'd have to push them back up. It's a dirt road and they wouldn't pull up it. But those of us that didn't have a motorcycle or a motor scooter, we'd put the old cardboard on the spokes of the wheels so they'd sound like a motor scooter anyway. Good times at Ackworth Elementary. I was one of the school patrols. Grammar school, when you'd get out of class a little bit early, you'd stand at the bus and help the bus driver get the rest of the kids on the bus. You'd count the names and make sure that everybody was on the bus. And then when you go down the road, if you cross a railroad track or something, the bus driver stopped, they opened the door, and you got off and looked both ways on the track and motioned the bus to come across the track, and you get back on and leave. And of course, you were about 11 years old doing that. I don't think you could do that nowadays. I got my first car when I was 17. It's 56 Ford. And but in order to get that car, I had to promise I'd pay for it. And I got a job at Coates and Clark Thread Mill up here in Ackworth, and I worked a graveyard shift. So I would go to school in the daytime, come home, do my homework, go up there at 11 o'clock, get off at 7 o'clock in the morning, go home, get ready to go to school. And I did that my junior and senior year, paying for that car. I worked at Lockheed from 1965 to 1970, and in 70 I had an opportunity to come on board with Cobb County Fire Department. They were actually districts at that time, but they merged the districts in January of the latter part of January of 70, and became an alarm operator, and was that for about 3 years, and then went into the fire suppression side of it and went through the ranks of lieutenant captain, battalion chief, and eventually was deputy chief over support services right under Chief Hilton, who was the fire chief at that time, and then went back out into the field as a battalion chief and over hazmat until I retired in '98. most firefighters, we worked 24 on, 48 off, and everybody had a part-time job. Well, you know, those part-time jobs quite often become full-time jobs, and this one did. Well, we started Grizzle Landscaping in 1971. It was mainly a family organization. We did commercial and residential landscaping, and that was actually making the yards, not cutting grass, but laying the sod, etc. I stopped because in 1985, at the time, 84, I had the opportunity to take on the position of deputy chief, right. And so I had to go to an 8-hour day. Mm-hmm. And in doing that kind of put a stop to the landscaping business. Back then, there were two things I liked about Ackworth when I was growing up. One is the people. Everybody says this, I guess, but you know, it's true. The people here seemed like they knew everybody. They were friendly, and the town itself was just the right size. And not just us. You hear a lot about Ackworth now. It's a beautiful town. We frequent the restaurants up here, and I like what's going on. I like what's going on with this Save Ackworth history. There's no better place to be, I'll tell you.